What if I told you this viral Substack post about Anthony Bourdain that amassed 8,973 likes, 383 comments, and 1,637 restacks was written by artificial intelligence? Would you believe me? Could the thousands of people raving about it really not see through it? Well, the short answer is yes. When you don't know what AI writing looks like and the patterns it follows, it's easy for these types of posts to slip through suspicion. But if you're someone who has extensively used and tested AI for writing, like myself, it's painfully obvious. AI is disrupting a lot of industries, but no industry is becoming more sterilized and homogenous than writing. Research posted in Harvard Business Review in 2024 found that the largest pool of use cases for generative AI centered around content creation and editing. A 2025 survey by BookBub found that 48% of writers are using generative AI to assist with their writing. So in this video, I want to talk about the effect that AI might be having on what we consider good writing and how it's stripping away our unique creativity, with, of course, some nuance thrown in there. I'm going to show you the exact patterns that prove with almost 100% certainty that someone wrote something with AI. And once you start to see those patterns, I'm sorry, because it'll probably ruin your reading experience online forever, or until something changes. Let's start off with a post that commits just about every single dead giveaway of AI writing in under 350 characters, a note from Substack. If you didn't know, the writing platform I mentioned earlier, Substack, now has a homepage which is essentially just a Twitter feed but for writers. And it is chock full of AI writing examples. It's bad, man, it's bad. Here's the post. If your words carry soul, not polish, not performance, drop your Substack here. Not the shiny draft, the one that scared you. Too raw, too weird, too true. I'm not hunting content, I'm calling the ones who still feel it, the ones who still mean it. Let's thread a signal no algorithm can smother. Drop your fire, I'll meet you there. Before I dissect this post, are there any things that you notice that might indicate that this was written by AI? I'll give you a second to think about it.
Okay, time's up.
Just in the first sentence alone, this post has two obvious culprits of AI writing. It's not this, it's this, and M dashes. Generative AI software, and especially ChatGPT, loves to negate things and then explain the thing they're trying to highlight. For example, when I typed the prompt, "Write me a tweet about the dangers of AI writing" into ChatGPT, this is the response it gave me. AI writing isn't dangerous because it's bad. It's dangerous because it's almost good. Good enough to trust, not good enough to think. If a post or piece of writing is full of, "It's not this, it's this," or vice versa, then it's almost guaranteed that AI was used in the writing process. I can't think of any writing I've read from humans that uses that much negation to get their point across. And before I get into the next dead giveaway, I gotta talk about today's sponsor, Ladder. Ever since I switched to a hybrid training plan the past year, I was able to lose about 15 pounds, and I've had more energy, I sleep better, and my mind just feels sharper on a daily basis. If you need a solid workout plan, Ladder could simplify that process for you. I know most of us hate the idea of creating our own workout plan and sticking to it. It would be so much cheaper and less of a hassle to just listen to whatever new thing a fitness influencer online is saying to blow up your arms. But the fact of the matter is, if you keep changing up your workouts every single week, you're not going to see the progress you want. Ladder is an app that creates an expert training plan for you based on your goals. These aren't influencer workouts or challenges. They're structured workout routines that are built around progressive overload, the key to building muscle. All you do is filter your preferences, and they assign you a coach who gives you an exact routine to follow throughout the week with videos, demos, and a journal that tracks your progress and weights. And you can try it completely for free for 7 days with no credit card required, because let's be honest, sometimes I do these free trials and then I forget I put my credit card in and it ends up charging me. I just hate that. So if you're interested in getting a workout plan tailored to your goals, you can get $10 off your first month if you do decide to commit to it by clicking the link in my description or scanning that QR code that you see on screen right now. The next dead giveaway in that first sentence of the Substack post are the M dashes. Commonly mistaken for a hyphen or N dash, M dashes are a punctuation mark used to indicate a break in a sentence, often used for emphasis or as a replacement for colons, semicolons, or parentheses. They can mark an abrupt change or break in the structure of a sentence, like this sentence here, indicate interrupted speech, like this sentence, and as one of my favorite ways to use them, can set off or introduce defining phrases or lists, like this sentence. Now, ever since AI writing became popular, there are a ton of media outlets claiming that em dashes are basically only used when someone writes with AI, but that just isn't the case. Em dashes have been used for centuries in literature, from novelists like Jane Austen in the 18th century to 19th century poets like Emily Dickinson. I also use em dashes frequently in my writing because I find they just fit my style, and they also mirror the way that I naturally think, at least when I'm writing. That being said, it's the frequency with which AI uses them, and the fact that they use them so unnecessarily that gives away when writing is AI produced. In this Substack post, they actually used the em dash properly. It broke up the sentence in a similar way to how a parentheses might break it up. What really gave it away was the fact that this sentence combined both the negation pattern and the em dash pattern, along with the other words that it used. More than just the structure of the sentences, once you've read enough of this stuff, you can easily identify some of the words that it likes to use over others. So the em dash usage was really just the cherry on top. Now let's look at an example where the em dash felt unnecessary within the writing to give you a more obvious illustration. And yes, I'm back to Substack for finding examples because there's just so many use cases of AI writing here. It's insane. Let's grow our Substacks together. If you're a writer, creator, or just someone who loves sharing what lights you up, drop your Substack below. I'd love to read your work and support your journey. Again, technically the use of the em dash here is correct. They marked a change in the pace of your reading specifically for the call to action. But almost all human writers would prefer to use a comma here instead of an em dash. It just feels totally unnecessary to break up the pacing of that sentence in this way, and feels like something only generative AI would do. There's one more pattern that's easily spottable in AI writing that I want to go over that occurred in both the post I just read to you and the example post from before. The rule of threes. Too raw, too weird, too true. A writer, creator, or just someone who loves sharing what lights you up. What structure do these sentences follow? They've connected certain pieces of similar information in a three-piece format. This is another one of those patterns that may not be AI writing depending on the context. Many great writers love using this rule of threes because it just feels right to read. Our brains are wired to seek patterns, and 3 is the smallest number needed to establish a pattern with a beginning, middle, and end. It creates a natural, pleasing rhythm within sentences. So how can you tell whether it's an AI or a human using a triplet in writing? Well, humans tend to vary these patterns. A human might write, "She wanted to feel seen, to feel safe. And above all, she wanted to feel real." AI, on the other hand, might write something like, "She wanted to feel seen, to feel safe, and to feel strong." But just relying on that usually isn't enough. God, I wish I had a better way of explaining some of these patterns other than it's just a vibe, but that's really what a lot of this writing is, and discerning whether it is AI or not. When I read too raw, too weird, too true, it just doesn't sound like a human. It feels too neat and robotic, like a human would not use those words and phrases together exactly in that way. And based on the rest of that post, it only confirms my intuitive feelings. And now that we have a good idea of what AI writing looks like, let's return to the viral Anthony Bourdain piece and uncover the clues hidden within it. I just want to preface this by saying I am not asserting that this piece or any other piece I critique is definitively written by AI. I am just making assumptions based off of what I know, and I'm not trying to slander anyone's writing. If I make a mistake, I apologize. In the very first paragraph of this piece, there's a few patterns I instantly recognize. In the second sentence, the author not only uses a dash, but they also have the "it's not this, it's this" pattern. He had taste, not just in food, but in music, books, tattoos, people. The third sentence follows suit. He wore his demons like a leather jacket. Not flaunted, not hidden, just there. Now, there's a very sly technique that the author might have used, if this piece is written by AI, to make it look like it wasn't written by AI. Did you catch it? Instead of using em dashes, which is the appropriate dash to use here, they used a hyphen. What I suspect is that in an effort to hide some of the presence of AI in this piece, the author changed the em dashes the AI produced into hyphens during the editing process. There are authors online who use hyphens instead of em dashes just as a form of branding, even though it is technically incorrect grammar, but I don't think branding was this author's intention. And based on the structure of those sentences and how much they sound like AI, I think I'm making the right assumption. A triplet with a dash happens in the very next sentence, and the dash here feels like one of those cases of AI unnecessarily using dashes too. And yet, with all that grit, wisdom, food, music, and connection, he still left us. Again, I feel like 90% of humans would just end up using a comma there instead of a dash. This post isn't really about Bourdain, it's about what he opened up in me, and maybe in you too. Some obvious giveaways there. And then one of the final paragraphs outlining what this person's Substack entails is just loaded with AI writing patterns. Now, I do suspect that the author injected some of their own writing into this piece. There's a few sentences in there that feel like a human, but unfortunately, there's just too many coincidences to not conclude that at least 80% of this Substack piece was written using AI. What further confirms that suspicion is when you read her comments. I know people tend to write differently and with more structure in a professional piece than in a comment, but their comment here sounds so much different from their writing and more like how I'd expect this author to write if their writing wasn't put through a generative AI software. Read it and let me know if you think the same. Also, this comment, which suspects the piece was written by AI, does a good job at explaining why it's probably AI better than I might have just now. Now, after figuring all this out, this might naturally lead you to ask the question, why does all AI writing sound the same? And the answer to this question is incredibly important in understanding just how dangerous AI writing could become. You see, generative AI, at the most basic definition, is simply just a piece of software that tries to predict the next correct thing to say based on the data the company used to train it. By feeding it large amounts of text data, the model begins to learn statistical patterns in language like what words tend to follow others and how sentences are typically structured. In other words, it has no real internal world like humans. It doesn't even know what it's saying. It's just producing what looks right based on probability. And because most of its training data comes from existing internet content, published books, articles, Reddit threads, Wikipedia, and whatever other internet text data you can think of, it ends up regurgitating only the patterns that it was trained on and only in the most common or safe ways. It is quite literally a culmination of the average, and that is why it always sounds average and same-like. Now, here's where the danger comes in, because as more people rely on AI to get past their laziness with writing, the writing that we all read and consider good, that writing is only going to get worse over time. If AI-generated material continues to grow, then it's likely that future LLMs won't even be getting trained on human-pulled data anymore. They'll be getting trained on the data that only they produced, which further reinforces the bias, misinformation, and lack of creativity issues AI is already creating. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that using AI over humans is a great way to combat the inevitable biases that humans have sometimes when doing certain tasks, but generative AI is biased in almost the exact same way. Depending on where the types of data came from that the company trained the LLM on, a generative AI model is going to develop certain biases based on that data. A paper in Nature from 2023 described this type of occurrence as model collapse, which they defined as a degenerative process whereby, over time, models forget the true underlying data distribution, even in the absence of a shift in the distribution over time. This is what happens when AI models are trained more on AI-generated content than diverse, unique, human-generated content. Over time, an AI model that was only fed AI-generated content will deteriorate, losing its accuracy, nuance, and capacity for producing any type of usable outputs. Basically, the biased data AI is trained on creates even more biased data because the people who use those AI models use the biased data in the models to create their own pieces of content on the internet, which the newer model gets trained on, and this creates a negative feedback loop. Yes, we could be headed toward a future where the creativity of many authors, businesses, or other creative workers almost disappears completely, and more of the thoughts and ideas we consume are increasingly unreliable and detached from reality. As if that wasn't already enough of a problem on the internet before generative AI. What I will say is that eventually, if this problem gets bad enough, LLMs will deteriorate to such a point that not even the laziest people can rely on them to produce good outputs, and well, that's a pretty good thing. Also, if you want to look at this from another positive light, before that deterioration takes place, this is a great opportunity for creatives on the internet. Because with more and more people relying on AI to make their content, it makes it much easier to stand out. But we're not at that model collapse yet. The work of AI, much of which is actually stolen data from creatives without their consent, by the way, still overpowers the voice of so many incredible creators online because it's so easy to produce more content with it and therefore get more attention on you in a shorter amount of time. And if I could use AI's writing structure for a second here, this isn't just a video to help you spot patterns and then roll your eyes, making you disgusted at what's going on here. This is also a video for me, someone who almost lost their unique voice through AI. I'll be honest, in a few past videos I have used AI to write some of the script. Not the entire script, but enough to have a few you call me out for it, which I appreciate. Since this YouTube channel is my job, there is an immense amount of pressure for me to output videos like this once a week, and the algorithm really only likes it when I make a certain type of video and package it a certain way, so it's inevitable that I'm not going to be super passionate about every single video I put out, and that's a trade-off I've accepted by now. Because of that, some days when I was feeling extra lazy, I would just ask ChatGPT to write most of it for me. But with everything I know now and how slop-sounding AI writing sounds to me now, I refuse to do this anymore. I refuse to take the AI shortcut and lose my unique voice along the way, even if it means I have to struggle through the writing process a bit more. As for the nuance in this, I do think that using AI sometimes in the editing process of writing is useful so long as it doesn't transform your voice into something unrecognizable. Sometimes I'll be writing out a sentence that just doesn't feel that great to read or say out loud, and when AI suggests a different phrasing or maybe a similar word that still feels true to how I write, that is when I feel like AI does more good than harm. But as you now saw, that's not how most people use it, including past me. This video is a wake-up call for anyone who has been letting AI do the heavy lifting in their writing process, or almost any creative process for that matter. If you let AI write for you, you are ruining your ability to find your creative voice, a voice that takes inspiration from all the things you've consumed, not a machine. And if you need any more of a reason to stop using it, I can tell when AI wrote your shit, others can tell too, and you know what they think? This sounds like slop, and sounding like slop is far worse than writing poorly, but still choosing to put your writing out into the world in order to get better. Start politely calling people out for their AI-generated content. Raise awareness around its patterns and weird filler words, and distance yourself from AI as much as you can in your creative endeavors. Some of the biggest things that separate humans from AI are our creativity and improvisation. Don't let AI take that away from us. Keep fighting back by using your own voice, even if you think it sucks. Writing is at the foundation of all of my videos, and it's a process I have slowly fallen in love with over time. And while this channel isn't centered around it, I love telling stories through writing. So that is why since the start of this year, I have been writing my very first novel. It's going to be titled Fractured Worlds, and it's about a 21-year-old navigating life in a post-pandemic world who develops the ability to shift into a parallel reality. It blends sci-fi with psychological thriller, philosophy, and self-improvement. So if those are the types of things you're interested in, I think you'll really enjoy this book when it comes out. It's probably not going to be out until the start of next year, but if you want to come along with me on the journey as I write it, I give updates on my newsletter on Substack. If you want to sign up for that, the link is in the description. I feel like my video, Why the Internet is So Dead Now, heavily relates to this one. So if you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy that video, which is right here if you want to click on it and support me by continuing to watch my videos. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.